Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
When you retire is not on your terms. It makes it just that much harder to let go. But Will the Drill, he is without a doubt a legendary journey.
What are we going to do to replace the game, Will?
Football has changed a lot since you were in your prime.
You go to the game this week?
Football isn't everything, right?
We lost 29 Marines on back-to-back deployments.
You can't come home until you go home.
I can't go home if I never had one.
Just want to thank you for what you did the other night.
Yeah.
You looked out for me.
Most of my post-traumatic stress is from lack of traumatic stress.
And I missed the locker room.
You own a gym. Why not make it a locker room?
That's all you got?
What if we had some of your dudes come down, get in there with some of my dudes?
Pay your asses. Help, get up. I got you.
I would never compare battlefields to ball fields, but the camaraderie, the pride, it's crazy how all that stuff matches up.
You're not at war anymore. You gotta move forward. You're poking the bear. You're gonna get hurt. Come on, hit me.
You didn't die. So when are you gonna start living? I don't give anything to just run out on that field one more time.
We can't lose. We're your team now.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 477. Available now on digital and on demand is MVP, a powerful drama that tells the story of how an unlikely bond between a recently retired NFL player and a homeless veteran led to the formation of a support group that helps those struggling to transition from the fields of battle. Based on true events, MVP is an emotionally raw and beautifully performed and crafted story that delves into themes of brotherhood, purpose, and mental health, along with the pressing issue of veteran suicide. For more information and links, please go to vetsandplayers.org. And joining me now on the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is the director, writer, and star of MVP, Mr. Nate Boyer. Nate, I thank you so very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Well, absolutely.
Thank you for the kind words as well. That was a nice intro.
well, thank you. I mean, it's really is from the heart. I mean, I watched MVP maybe a few weeks ago, and it's a movie that really has stuck with me. It's really interesting just reading up about the history of merging vets and players, which is the MVP of the title. It's pretty much like a support program that yourself and Jay Glazer, who some people might know as a Fox Sports NFL insider, you formed that along with Jay back in 2015. It's really interesting how this kind of the story of that formation has been turned into a feature film. I mean, you could have gone a lot of different ways. There could have been a book, there could have been a documentary, a podcast. Why a feature film based around these characters that we see in the film? What was it about creating a movie that you thought would be the best way to tell the story of MVP and the people in your life over the last several years that kind of created MVP over the years?
Well, honestly, I think a big part of that was, so when we host our huddles, when we bring together these vets and athletes, we train together, and then, we huddle up and kind of talk through some of our stuff. It's meant to be sort of a private moment for these people. It's meant to be a safe space where they feel like they can share anything and not and not feel like it's they're being judged or anything like that. But also like they want to feel protected and to have these real people opening up and being vulnerable with, a camera in their face, for instance, if it was in a documentary, or even just talking about it on a podcast. Some are open to doing that. Some are prepared for that and okay with that in their lives, and others aren't. And so it's just sort of a little bit, it could be intrusive. And we've done some features on MVP and stuff like that, but it's never quite the same as like an actual huddle, an actual session where we all are able to get together and really share where we're at from a mental health perspective. So if we scripted this thing and made it into a film, when people are acting, and even though some of these people are actual members and all the veterans portrayed on screen are played by real vets, when they're acting and they feel like this is dramatized in some way, it gives them a bit of a license to, be open and vulnerable. And because part of them may feel like, this is a version of me. It's not necessarily the full real me. And it may give them that comfortability level to do that. And so it's a way to give an inside look at what we do at MVP and who we are without maybe crossing a line or a boundary with some of the real members, if that makes sense.
It does. It really does make sense. And it's really interesting how, I've read that you said that the screenplay for MVP, it felt like it was more transcribed and written over the years. You've heard stories, you've had experiences, you've heard confessions. When you take all of those experiences, all those stories, all those moments that you had during your time with MVP and the people who have come through those doors and into your gym, what's it like trying to form that into a screenplay? Where do you start? Does it start with the stories? Does it start with the characters? How does it all kind of come together from a story screenplay point of view with this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't initially thought, I hadn't envisioned that as a screenplay. I didn't really know how we would do that, to be completely honest, when we first started. But after talking to a good friend of mine, Garrett Jones, a co-writer of the film, who served in the UK military, Garrett was just one of these people that thought, this is a movie. There's a way to tell this story if you go back to the beginning and you sort of talk about the genesis of MVP, how it all started, because how we started bringing these vets into the gym. Some of the first ones we met were living in, a transition house, living in a homeless shelter. And, some of these vets really struggled with moving forward, really struggled with being around other veterans, much less civilians. And if we kind of tell it in that manner where it's a little more relatable to everyone, where they think, oh, this is a person who's just struggling with homelessness, struggling with connecting to society and stuff like that, versus, this is a veteran as a part of this program already. It was just a little bit easier to make that happen. So that's sort of where, why we decided to tell the story in that way. And it's, the attempt is for people to be able to look at it from an outside perspective and feel like, I can understand and relate to some of the emotions this person is experiencing, some of the things that they're going through. And it just kind of made more sense for us to show how does an athlete, an NFL player, one first year out of the league with money and a marriage and all these things, and this homeless veteran, how do they find commonality? Like, where does that come from? And so that's what we set about to do with the film, is just show where that comes from.
I also read that Sylvester Stallone, who's the executive producer of the movie, he kind of gave some feedback, didn't he, on the initial scripts in regards to the film's story, the film's tone. Is that true? And what's it like to have someone like a Sylvester Stallone providing feedback for your first screenplay? I'm sure that would have been both an exciting but also kind of daunting experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, Sly, I've known Sly not super well, but I've known him over the years, and he's come to really appreciate MVP and like what we stand for and who we are. So that was super important. But his producing partner, really, Braden Aftergood, who used to be at Film 44 with Peter Berg, and just such a generous person with his time and everything like that. So, he has been from the beginning. Braden believed in the project and gave us story notes and like helping us get to that place. And it just was. It was a situation where he brought it to Sly. Sly was on board with it, and it was just really just a labor of love from there. And getting notes from trusted people in the industry who've been there, who've succeeded, who've made it happen at the highest levels. I mean, the absolute highest levels. And it was awesome to be able to get that stamp of approval finally on after numerous drafts, getting it where it needed to be. And to have people like that on board, him and Michael Strahan and Jay Glazer, obviously, and Tony Gonzalez and Randy Couture, and all these people just jump on board because of what the project is about, and who the story that we're telling, and and how they're connected to MVP as an organization. Was really unique and really special. So I'm grateful that we had that support. We couldn't have made it without him. We're so fortunate to be able to tell the story our way, using our people, but also leveraging those names and relationships in Hollywood as well.
When I watched the film, something that really sticks out is the camaraderie, not only found in the sports field, but also on the battlefield as well. And it's really important that is really brought to the fore, that you have a community around you, whether they be friends, comrades, co-workers, whatever you can call it. When it comes to filming a movie, do you also feel that same sense of camaraderie there as well? I mean, when you are on your first day on set and you're the director and this is your directing debut, how important is it that the team you have around you are there not only to support you, but to also have your back? So when it comes to those moments where you might be stuck, where you might not know what to do next in regards maybe to shot selection or etc., that you have that camaraderie around you, that crew around you, especially on an independent film, which I'm sure, has its own limitations when it comes to budget and time. I'm sure having a select team of people around you to help you, finish a mission, so to speak, in regards to making a film, that would have been so beneficial.
Yeah, it's honestly very similar in a lot of ways to not at all similar to combat, of course, and going to war, but the brotherhood and the camaraderie and like honestly the chaos in some ways, the way that you have to be flexible and have backup plans and be prepared to adjust and kind of just expect Murphy to bite you in the ass every day because it's going to happen. And then rally as a team and communicate with different departments and have a clear vision as a leader, like all those things, man. It's like it did feel in a lot of ways like a military training mission or like preparing to play a football game. Honestly, like there was just so much of that. So those experiences, having that background and being a part of those communities, no doubt helped in the filmmaking part of this, and especially and also with the team around me, because it was mostly vets and athletes in front of and behind the camera as well, and they're used to that stuff. They kind of can roll with it with a smile on their face, and understand that hey, things change and it might be a little uncomfortable for a bit, but we'll figure this out. And, everyone just do their best to maintain a positive attitude and let's be creative together.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's movie reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. When it comes to post-production, I mean, I talk to so many filmmakers and they can't state enough the importance of, you know what they say, you write the film, you make the film, and then when you go to editing, that's when you really make the film. That's when it all kind of comes together. What's that experience like for you, post-production wise, watching the film that you worked on and you wrote and you started and being pieced together the way that it is? Is that something that will always stick with you? Because I'm sure that seeing something that you've been working on for so long being put together in front of your eyes would have been a real thrill on your behalf.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like I didn't truly enjoy it or appreciate it or even feel like I completely didn't screw it up until I got to watch it in the theater for the first time with about 350 people, mostly veterans and athletes and people that support that community. So people that I knew would judge it at the highest level too. Because, when you watch something about your community and about your story and about your experiences, you're going to pick it apart even more. And, to see the reaction from them was very reassuring. And it kind of got me to an emotional place and just remembering like the entire journey way before we started making the movie of some of the things that I was fortunate enough to experience and see and be a part of, and some of the things that aren't so fortunate to be a part of, and to bring that to life and have all these other people backing you up from day one. And most of them asking for nothing. They just wanted to be a part of it because they thought it was important that this narrative is told by the people that lived it. And that was amazing. And that wasn't all veterans and athletes. It was a lot of civilians that were part of that mission too, part of that journey, and just bought in. And so I'll definitely forever be grateful for that. And I'll be honest, I think I took it for granted until we were done and we were finished, and I felt good about it, and I felt like we did it, and got to feel that emotion in the room with those other people and hear the laughter and tears and just the recognition of the reality of it. That like sealed the deal for me, and finally brought me to a place of deep gratitude for what we made as a team, because I know my name's all over it in different places, and a lot of the reasons for that, honestly, was with the budget we were dealing with, the limited resources. It was a hell of a lot cheaper for me to not have to pay the co-writer, the co-producer, the director, or one of the leads, and so. And also I felt connected to the story, very connected. I mean, it is a big part of my life. So it all kind of made sense at the end. But that's all to say that just because my name's in so many places on this thing, it is not just Nate Boyer who did this thing, not even close. And I know people always say that, but I'm dead serious. Like every single department backed me up, and I had incredible creative talent that were just so generous with their time and energy and really cared about the project. And that's the only way it was able to get to where it is today.
There are a lot of things that is important about MVP in regards to its story and its themes. I think an issue that's really pressing from that movie that I think more people need to look into and recognize is that of suicide amongst veterans and also active military personnel as well. I know here in Australia last year we launched a Royal Commission into veteran suicide. Since I think over the last decade or so, I think we've had like 1,200 Defence Force veterans and serving personnel die by suicide. And I know in the States as well, the number is very high. I think it's something like 6,000 like this year alone. So it's like an incredibly depressive and tragic number there. When it comes to that issue of veteran suicide that you address in the film, and something that you and Jay really want to kind of combat in merging vets and players, do you think the issue is given enough airplay in the media? Do you think it's given enough importance in the government? Because I think it's something that too many people kind of like not necessarily look away from it, but just not really exposed to. And I think that's very tragic in its own right.
I think in some ways it's recognized quite a bit as far as data, but as far as resources and actual action to change it, I think it's lacking greatly, you know, and the willingness to give other voices and opportunities a chance to be heard on what works for them and all that. You know, we're so hung up on data. I mean, I look at that from not just a government perspective. You know, when we're looking for corporate funding for MVP, and I understand that they're businesses and those are, you know, dollars that they set aside for specific giving, and they want to see results. You know, they want to see a number aligned and attached with where their money's going. Like, I want to know if I'm donating X, it's helping Y number of people. And it's really hard to quantify mental health. It's really hard to track that and to know that you're making a difference. But the best way for me is not to look at the numbers, is to look at the qualitative results and talk to the people. Talk to the members, people who are a part of the program, and not just MVP. There's a lot of organizations that do great things that are saving lives. But talk to these people, hear their stories. Like, this is why we made the movie, you know, so they can see what this is like and hear this and try to understand this, because it's not just dollars that save people's lives. It's the work that's done. It's the message that's passed on. It's the people that are, you know, day in and day out, giving so much of their energy to others and making sure they're there for them. And a lot of the programs that we are offered when we come out of the military are kind of cheesy. And we don't really connect to, and they don't really work for us. They're a little dated. It's just the way it is. You know, I mean, we have to move past this, tap dancing around stuff and being so PC all the time with things. That's why in the movie, I mean, there's probably 100 F-bombs in the movie, because that's how we talk, you know, and we're not intended to offend people when we do that. And, you know, there's no doubt a necessary filter that needs to be put on once you move away from that world. You know, when you talk in the business world, the corporate world, a different job, you can't talk like you did when you're in the military. But, you know, the reality is, like, that's what resonates with us. That's what we relate to, but that's what we're used to. Lived in a worked in a high stakes environment. And there's just a different level of intensity. So all of that stuff, I mean, that's how we talk when we're in session, when we're in huddles, man. There is no filter on it. You know, we try to stay away from politics and religion because that can get ugly. But everything else we talk about, man, share it. No matter exactly what you're feeling, just tell me. You don't have to be creative with your words. You can just say, you know, you can just blurt it out. And let's try to, you know, work through this together.
So there's I guess you could call it a running gag in the sort of way in the movie, and it revolves around 5 words: thank you for your service. Now, a lot of people like myself and other civilians, we say those words with the utmost sincerity and sensitivity and respect to our veterans whenever we come across them. It's interesting, though, how in the movie, how the veterans kind of react to those 5 words. And I think it really kind of gave me pause as well as to whether I should say that, whether I shouldn't say that to any time of veterans or what have you. What is your kind of approach to those 5 words, thank you for your service? Do you think it's something that in kind of ways is something of an empty platitude, or do you think it is important that people do say those words when they come across veterans like yourselves and other people like those in your movie?
Yeah, I mean, if you mean it, absolutely. I mean, the movie, it as you mentioned, it is meant to be a bit of a running joke, because we know. I mean, just like anything, people are can be sensitive, and people can also be just very aware of intentions, and it's easy for us to pick up when somebody's saying it out of sincerity and they're being genuine, or if it's just out of obligation because they feel like they have to say it, and it just like, it's just the thing that we just hear it so much. I think we get a little bit desensitized to it and numb to it. But it's not offensive. It's not a bad thing to say to people at all. I mean, there's another line in that movie where Will Phillips, the character, Will Phillips asks for, do you ever kill anybody? Now that's different. Like, you shouldn't ask people that. You really shouldn't. I mean, you're tiptoeing a line there. There's a lot of people that can be very triggering, or how many people did you kill, or whatever. That's completely different, though. I mean, the thank you for your service thing. I'm not offended at all, and most people are. I don't think anybody's really offended by those words. It just, at times, in my experience, and I think in some others as well, it's felt like that they are. It's just, kind of being patronized a bit,
right?
And so, yeah, I get that note a lot and that question a lot, and I feel bad because I'm almost like, no. I don't want you to feel guilty for saying that, and I don't want you to apologize for saying it. It's just how sometimes it feels, when it's kind of, said a lot, like especially around a holiday like a Veterans Day or a Memorial Day, and it's like, after a while you're like, all right, enough. I didn't do that many. We're not all heroes here, okay? I didn't do that much.
Final question here, Nate. So this MVP is, of course, your directorial debut. Have you got the directing bug now? Are you looking forward to direct more films? Are you looking to write more and direct more? Are you looking for other projects? What's the future of filmmaking for you?
I want to more than anything. I can't wait to get back out behind the camera. Really, I didn't know it would be something I would love so much. I mean, I was genuinely afraid of it, and a lot of it that comes from lack of technical knowledge, not just on equipment, but just on, would I know how to communicate properly? Would I know how to kind of cut this thing in my head while I'm shooting it? Would I have that idea? And I had, at least with this project and some others I'm sort of developing, I am such a dreamer, so I'm a very visual thinker, and I did have a pretty clear idea of how I wanted it to look and feel. But then at the same time, when you have people like my cinematographer, Logan Fulton, who coincidentally is the only non-veteran that was a department head on this whole project. But I wanted to work with Logan because I worked with him before and I trusted him, and I know he's just such a genius. And he's a young guy, I think he's 25 years old when we shot this thing. But I just was able to, communicate that to him and then kind of trust him to find it and light it. And we had long discussions about, what's the look and the feel and the tone and all these things that we want to get across in each scene. And I just before we even started shooting, I became addicted to that, opportunity to create something like that and kind of utilize all these unique and interesting ways of shooting it. And we shot in a fairly conventional way. It's not like, as far as I know, I don't think we tried to. There wasn't a bunch of tricks or sneaky kind of cool camera shots. The intent was certainly not to make a movie that wows people with the directorial or cinematographer skills. It was more to just properly put us in this place and in this mood with these people and make you feel like you're right there with them. Like that was the whole idea. And I think that's the way that works for me. You know, I enjoy watching those type of movies as well. And it's funny, like you get done with something and the first thing I'm thinking is like, ooh, man, I could have shot this in this cool, sexy, different way that would have, you know, but then it's like, maybe that would have been distracting for what we were trying to do. And the kind of stories that I'm interested in are very intimate and personal. And like, that's what I gravitate towards. I mean, my favorite movie is The Wrestler. With Mickey Rourke. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
Yes, of course. Yes.
I love that movie, and it's like I just feel it, you know, and I just connect to this person that I feel like I probably don't have a lot in common with, but it just draws me in, such a personal thing, and so stuff like that was more of our guiding light than you know than other ways of maybe creatively showing what PTSD could feel like or look like, because it's different to everybody. You know, that's not a blanket emotion, or it's certainly not a veteran issue only. It's a human issue. So we wanted to stay away from some of the common tropes used in the past of what that maybe looks like, even though that is accurate at some level. So yeah, to answer your question, I can't wait to do another one. And I've got a few different stories I'm working on, things I'm kicking around, and also waiting for the perfect one to come my way, because I don't think I'm a brilliant writer. I think I'm good with dialogue and understand a story enough, but to put that on the page is really hard. So I couldn't have done it without Garen, my co-writer, and you know, I look forward to getting back on set though and creating something again.
So for everyone out there listening, MVP available now on demand and on digital. You can go to vetsandplayers.org and you can find links there as where to watch the film. You can even find some places, some states that even still have the movie in cinemas as well, which is, I know you had a cinema run like a few months ago, and that is still running in some cinemas is a really cool thing. And I think some people can still host a screening, but whichever way that you all watch it, you need to watch this film. I really loved MVP, Nate. I thought it was terrifically made for a directorial debut, and also in many ways, kind of like, I know you've been in films before, but this is like your first kind of like leading man performance. You did a really great job in the role of Zephyr, and just how the film kind of comes together and its themes and its photography, the editing, everything, it looks and sounds and feels terrific in this movie. I just want to say thank you for your time today. Thank you for your movie, and also thank you for your service. Everything is much appreciated.
Yes, he said it. I love it. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.